First of all, let's call a spade a spade. This is a torture program. Waterboarding was supposed to be the ultimate technique, but there were a couple that were clearly worse than waterboarding.
You went to Guantanamo in 2002. Can you say what you were doing there? So at what point do you find out about the enhanced interrogation program?
Well, I was back at headquarters in May of 2002, and I was in the cafeteria, and a friend of mine from the Counterterrorism Center came up to me and said, very offhandedly, "Hey, I'm so glad I ran into you. I meant to ask, do you want to be certified in the use of enhanced interrogation techniques?" And I had never heard that term before. I said, "What's that mean?" He goes, "We're going to start getting rough with these guys." And I said, "Well, what does that mean?" And he said, "Well, we're going to do," and he listed these 10 techniques: waterboarding and sleep deprivation and, smack in the face and all these different kinds of things. I said, "That sounds like a torture program to me." And he goes, "No, it's not torture. The president approved it and the Justice Department approved it, and we're going to start on it." I said, "I don't know. I think I have a problem with that. Let me think about it for an hour." So I went back up to the 7th floor. There was a very senior CIA officer up there who I had worked for 10 years earlier. And I said, "Hey, I just got approached and asked if I wanted to be certified in these enhanced interrogation techniques. What do you think of that?" And he said, "First of all, let's call a spade a spade. This is a torture program. And you know how these guys are," he says. "Somebody's going to go overboard and they're going to kill a prisoner. And when that happens, there's going to be a congressional investigation and then a Justice Department investigation, and somebody's going to go to prison. You want to go to prison?" And I said, "No, I don't want to go to prison." So I went back downstairs. I said, "This is a torture program. I want nothing to do with it." So they asked 14 people, and I'm sorry to say that I was the only one who said no. 2 of us said no in the beginning, and then 1 changed his mind. But I was the only one in the end that said no. I'm glad I did. In retrospect, I was right. They were wrong. But things got much, much worse before they got any better.
How so?
Well, they started torturing Abu Zubaydah on the 2nd of August, 2002, and it was a slippery slope. They did many, many, many things, not just to Abu Zubaydah, but to most, if not all, of our high-value prisoners that were never authorized by the Justice Department or by the president. You can't force hummus up someone's rectum, for example, right? You can't play Russian roulette with them. You can't, they learned Abu Zubaydah had an irrational fear of insects. And so they put him in a coffin and they dumped a box of cockroaches in there with him and then closed the coffin. And they left him in there for 10 days just with a diaper. You can't do that. Nobody told you had permission to do something like that. And waterboarding was supposed to be the ultimate technique. But there were a couple that were clearly worse than waterboarding. Sleep deprivation, right? We know from the American Psychological Association, which has done studies on this kind of thing, that people begin to go insane at 7 days with no sleep. They begin to die of organ failure with 9 days without sleep. The CIA was authorized to keep prisoners awake for 12 days. People died from sleep deprivation. Another one was something called the cold cell, where they strip the prisoner naked, they chain you to an eye bolt in the ceiling so that you can't sit or lay or get comfortable in any way. They chill your cell to 50 degrees Fahrenheit, and then every hour, somebody goes in and throws a bucket of ice water on you. We murdered 2 prisoners with that technique. That was never approved as a technique. So we did all kinds of stuff. There was another thing, a technique that was considered to be kind of a mild, no big deal kind of thing called walling, where they roll up a towel and put it around your neck, and then they shove you into a wall, right? Well, the wall, it's a, what do you call it? Fiberboard,
Piece of plywood.
whatever. There's a little bit of give, and they have the towel so that you don't get whiplash. But they never used a towel. They never used anything around the neck. And it wasn't a plywood wall. It was a concrete block wall. And now we have, for example, Muhammad Attar, the nephew of Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, who was slammed so mercilessly against the wall that he's now brain damaged to the point where he can't participate in his own defense. They gave him permanent, lifelong brain damage. Where does it say you were authorized to do that? So it really was a slippery slope, and nobody was ever punished. Nobody will ever be called to account. Just recently, we're filming this in early September. The last week of August of 2023, the Defense Department admitted that they cannot try Ramzi bin Ashib, one of the 9/11 co-conspirators. They cannot try him because he's insane. He's clinically insane. Why is he insane? Because of sleep deprivation.
Do you think that's bullshit, though?
No, because this is the Pentagon's psychiatrist who's saying he's insane, not his defense attorneys.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it goes back to your point before about, you consulting your higher up at the agency, and he said, listen, somebody's going to go overboard. And yeah, I read Jim Mitchell's book, who was the Air Force psychologist that with Bruce Jessen designed the AIT program, and I guess the towel around the neck was supposed to be some sort of Pavlovian conditioning, where just the feel of the towel going around the neck.
Much of it was supposed to be Pavlovian. Yes. They called it learned helplessness. That's what it was. Learned helplessness. So all they would have to do is roll up the towel and the prisoner would just crumple.
Yeah. So I guess it's worth just giving some context to the listener as to why these things were even done in the first place.
Right. So the reason why they were done is something called the ticking time bomb scenario. The ticking time bomb scenario is you've just captured, let's say, Abu Zubaydah, and you know that Al-Qaeda is planning something big because Osama bin Laden said he was planning something that would dwarf 9/11, right? And you've got to get the information before the bomb goes off. So you say, hey, Abu Zubaydah, give me the information. He's like, fuck you, I'm not going to give you the information. So what do? Do you waterboard him? Do you sleep deprive him? Do you put him in a cold cell? Do you beat him? Do you put cockroaches on him? Do you put hummus up his ass? What do? Now, the problems with that are severalfold. First of all of it's illegal. Secondly, there really is no such thing as the ticking time bomb. That's only in the movies. It's never happened in real life. It just doesn't. Besides, even if it did happen, when you're torturing somebody, they give you everything they think you want to hear just to get you to stop torturing them. And so then it's going to take 6 months for the analysts to sort through it to figure out what's true and what's bullshit. And by then the bomb's gone off anyway. And again, we're either going to be the international, shining beacon of hope for human rights and civil liberties, or we're not.
Yeah.
But we can't have it both ways. I mentioned a few minutes ago, Ramzi bin Ashib being declared insane. Even if he had been declared sane, nothing that he said can be used against him at trial because the CIA tortured it out of him. Nothing that Khalid Sheikh Mohammed said, nothing that Abu Zubaydah said, or that Abdurrahim al-Nashri said, none of it can be used against them in trial. So what do? We continue to hold them illegally without charge, or we let them go. The bottom line here is the CIA royally fucked this up. And that's why every time the CIA would start to torture prisoners, every time Mitchell and Jessen were put in charge of the interrogation sessions at the black sites, every FBI person in the country would leave. The FBI didn't even want to be in the same country where this torture was taking place.
Yeah.
You know, like I say, it kills me to compliment the FBI. But they were right, and the CIA was wrong. And here we are, 22 years after 9/11. Literally no one has been prosecuted for that crime. No one.
Yeah.
Nor will anyone be prosecuted because the CIA ensured that no prosecutions could be carried out.
Ironically, you're the only one that went to prison for
I'm
that.
the only one that went to prison. Yeah.
So, last thing on this, and I'm just playing a little bit of devil's advocate here because I think it's important to listen to all arguments. Like I would like to have you in here just as I would like to have Jim Mitchell in here, or Jose Rodriguez.
Sure.
And decide for myself. And I hope the listeners do the same.
I agree.
And I'm just, I can't help but think about September 12th, man. And there's a quote in Tenet's book where he says something along the lines of all major foreign policy decisions after 9/11 were viewed through the prism of smoke from the World Trade Center and the Pentagon.
Absolutely true.
So when I think about the intent of Jose Rodriguez, of Jim Mitchell, of Bruce Jessen, I think about hindsight being 2020, the ticking time bomb situation, frantically trying to save American lives when everybody was running around like a fucking chicken with their head cut off. When you look back and you think about the enhanced interrogation program, what role does intent play for you?
I believe that all of the people that you mentioned had good intentions. I think that this points to a bigger problem at the CIA where you put sociopaths in positions of authority, where they come to believe that they're above the law and that because they're the good guys, they can and should do anything that they want to do. But I'm confident that Jose Rodriguez thinks he's the good guy and that James Mitchell and Bruce Jessen think they're the good guys. No doubt in my mind. At the same time, when there's a program that is as controversial and as potentially dangerous as the EIT program, you need some way to put the brakes on it. We already know that the congressional oversight system doesn't work. It just doesn't. You can't have 12 staffers on Capitol Hill overseeing an agency of 25 or 30,000 people. You just can't. It doesn't work. At the same time, the oversight committees have become nothing but cheerleaders for the CIA, rather than the brakes on out of control CIA policies. And you know, when it comes to things like open criminal investigations, the CIA needed to swallow its pride and defer to the FBI, and they just wouldn't. They wouldn't do it. And a lot of that was because of a guilty conscience, of having fallen asleep at the switch and allowed 9/11 to take place in the first place. But, you know, the torture program, nothing good came out of it. Literally nothing.
You went to Guantanamo in 2002. Can you say what you were doing there?
It was an interim assignment. I was a big star after I was beta. One of the muckety mucks came up and said, "Listen, we've got an underlap. Do you want to be chief in Guantanamo for a little while?" And I said, "I've never been to Cuba. I'd love to go to Cuba." So it's summertime. It's pretty hot. I said, "Okay, I'll go." So I went. Just filled in for somebody until a permanent chief was named.
What was that like being over there?
Hot.
Yeah.
And one of the things that's striking about Guantanamo, and I would guess that this is probably still the case, is no one has any idea of what the other guy's doing, right? Like, I'm used to working with people from a whole bunch of different agencies, like, "Hey, FBI guy, how you doing, buddy? Hey, DEA guy, keep up the good work. Oh, you're the ATF guy? We should have a beer sometime." You know, that's how it is in every embassy. At Guantanamo, you're walking past somebody, you put your head down. Like, who's he? I don't know. And I'm not telling him who I am. And all that guy knows is those buildings over there, don't go over there. That's, what do they call it? OGA. another government, other government agency. They don't even like to say the letters CIA. They just say OGA. Yeah, don't go over to that side. And then, like, you can hear people screaming over there. Yeah, it's not good.
What's up, guys? Thank you so much for taking the time to watch the interview. As you could probably tell, this is a brand new channel. So if you got anything out of this at all, please like the video, leave me a comment, tell me what you thought, tell me who you'd like to see on the show. I see every like, I read every comment, and I appreciate all of it, especially in the beginning, because as you know, that kind of support goes a long way on these platforms. So most importantly, I have some awesome guests coming up in the future for interviews. So please subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of them. But again, thank you for your time. Appreciate the support and hope to see you again soon.